Radio Namaste is brought to you by your host, the blue-collar goddess, Sarah Nash, and a small crew of guest personalities determined to amuse, entertain, and occasionally astonish you. And now, Radio Namaste, a different brand of enlightenment streaming live across this galaxy and probably a few more.
Hello, fellow Earth dwellers, and our new listening audience on Pluto. This is Sarah Nash as your host, and you're tuned in to Radio Namaste on the OMTimes radio network, bringing you enlightenment the blue-collar goddess way. For those of you who are interested in the blue-collar path, there will finally be a book with a companion oracle deck later this year, maybe even a pop-up coloring book. I got that idea from Vito Mucci from Coffee for Consciousness 101, so who knows. Anyways, remember to hit me up on our Twitter at Radio Namaste with the hashtag blue-collar-goddess. You'll get the opportunity to be in the drawing for a free 1-hour Skype session with me. And I'm going to put all those love notes in a hat, and Zen Master Ted will snag one out, and we'll announce the winner on the monthly wrap-up. So hashtag that blue-collar-goddess at Radio Namaste and get in the hat for the goods, the good goods. You already know that you don't have to download an app to get live streaming access to this conscious community called OMTimes Radio if you're listening live, but you'll want to check out the archives for past shows at the OMTimes Podbean portal or SoundCloud or on Namaste. That's namastewithanh.com in the show archive section. Zen Master Ted will give you a tweet about that in a minute or two, so star that, make it a favorite for easy access later. I'm super excited. Today's show features a guy who's spiritual as hell, and he can prove it too, because he has T-shirts that say so. So if you want for yourself to prove that you're part of that very special tribe, you can get one at the link that Zen Master Ted is going to put out on our Facebook page and Twitter. JP Sears is an emotional healing coach, an international teacher. He is a world traveler and a very curious student of life. His work empowers people to live more meaningful lives. And I know this is true because he didn't even have a session with me or anything. I have a more meaningful life because I watched him. It was like, wow. Anyways, he presents classes and workshops and online seminars, and he leads retreats at numerous locations around the world on inner healing and growth. He's also very active on his YouTube channel, which he's become quite the celebrity with. It's called Awaken With JP, where he encourages healing and growth through his entertainingly informative and really inspiring videos. And they're really funny and gentle. And I love his brand of sarcasm. I used to call myself the irreverent reverend. And, every time I think I'm like the best at something, he comes out and he's like, no, I am. Anyways, after the show, you're going to want to learn more about JP and his work at his website, which is awakenwithjp.com. and his YouTube channel, which is Awaken With JP. So, hey, JP, thanks for joining me today. And I think a really good place for us to start is if you could tell us what the meaning of life is.
Well, I'm happy to be here with you, Sarah, and I didn't know we were going to start with the easy questions first. So, my delusional perspective is maybe the meaning of life has nothing to do with finding the meaning of life, and maybe it has to do with simply living and experiencing life.
Well, what about the people who can't afford to do that?
Well, I think they need to watch The Secret again and learn how to be abundant and validate their low self-worth through an artificially flavored sense of high self-worth through their magical thinking of abundance.
Oh, so wow. Do I have to have a plan? Shoot. I'm so bad at outlines, JP.
But that's a good question. Obviously, if you can't afford it, then you don't deserve to have a meaningful life. I like that message, Sarah. I'm going to write that down. Raise my prices and just quote you to justify to my
oh my
customers.
Gosh, you just have a brand new Hindu listening audience because the caste system is huge. And the Scientologists, they're going to make you their new hero.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I've always been a fan of Tom Cruise. His movies. I think Cocktail was the first movie of his that I remember seeing. So it would be an absolute honor to be as Scientologist-y as he is.
Well, product placement in risky business, Ray-Bans. Nobody knew what Ray-Bans were until that moment. Not even the Blues Brothers did for Ray-Bans what Tom Cruise did for Ray-Bans. So, I mean, we might be onto something here. I think he should give us royalties.
Well, there's no question about it.
Well, Scientology, they're all about like the aliens and this and that and the other and all these thousands of souls, millions of souls that get trapped in volcanoes and what have you. But when the aliens really do land on Earth, are you going to be the first person they talk to?
Well, I don't have evidence that they haven't already done that, just because I don't have a conscious awareness of it. I don't want to exclude the idea that maybe it's already happened or maybe happening right now, Sarah.
All things are happening at once. All these timelines, these dimensions are compressing. But on a more serious note, people talk about ascension. They talk about when they find you and they ask you, they're like, okay, JP, I need a session. I need to work with my inner being. I need to work with my inner self. I mean, what type of people actually come to you? I mean, what is the general population? Like, are they mostly male? What is the number one thing that comes to you?
Yeah, good question. I would say maybe 60 to 70% majority would be women, and we all know women are more highly evolved than men, so it makes sense that they're a little more invested in their self-realization. And honestly, it's a good mix of men and women. And it's an eclectic variety of people. I want to get over this depression or this self-sabotage, or I'm having these relationship issues. Holding on to this anger, or I've got just these reoccurring patterns of dysfunction in my life, and I no matter what I do, I can't resolve it. So it's a wide variety of issues that essentially, in my opinion, all lead back to the human heart. So that's the common ground I get to work in for a variety of issues that people come to sessions with.
What is your training with regard to the type of life coaching that you do, the spiritual mentoring that you do? What is your background with that? How did you get to be the most spiritual man on the planet?
Well, absolutely. One of the things I did is I figured out I could just write Facebook posts proclaiming to be the most spiritual person, and that was actually a really effective strategy. So that being one of them. On a different note, much of my training for the work that I do, it comes from a man named John McMullen. To me, he is just an absolute angel inside of a human body. His organization is called Journeys of Wisdom. And I was in my early 20s when I started taking his programs on how to heal yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, as well as facilitate that work with other people as a coach. So, I have to really tip my hat and bow down to my experiences with John. It's just been incredible.
And does he know that you feel this way? I mean, does he even know who you are?
That's a good question. I'd like to think so. I've developed a very close friendship with John. He's not only been, actually, I'd like to say that my relationship with him is matured from the place of he was a mentor to now he's much more of a friend. And while I certainly still learn many things from him, it's nice to have a closer relationship where it's a friendship, a brothership, a fellowship, rather than just kind of like at arm's length teacher-student relationship.
How did that happen for you? Because my mentor, when I found my teacher many, many years ago, 2 decades ago, 20 years ago, Kathy Lynn Douglas, she literally took me by my shoulders and she shook me and she said, at some point you have to, accept accountability and responsibility for the actions in your life and stop blaming. I had a crappy childhood. Also, I want to ask you about your childhood. But when I became friends and then now my mentor and my teacher ultimately has become, she's like a sister to me. So I understand how long did it really take for you to develop that relationship with your teacher?
Yeah, it took long enough for me to be ready for it. To be honest with you, the first 2 or 3 years that I was working with John, I didn't have enough self-worth to actually feel as though I'm worthy of his friendship. Looking back, I can see how he was extending his hand and putting, personal invitations on the table to come over to his house to visit and do these things. And I didn't feel worthy of it yet through my healing journey. Luckily, there's some of that scar tissue had gotten resolved. So accepting a little bit more of my self-worth allowed me to allow the friendship to happen that I think had always been on the table. So yeah, a few years, I think, is the short answer to the question. And I think now I've known John now for probably about 13 years or so.
That's beautiful. That is really beautiful. And does he still do workshops and that sort of thing?
He does. He's an absolute crazy person in the sense that I look at him and he's much older than me. No insult to him, but he's much older than I am. And I don't understand where the heck he gets his energy from to, at his age, to still be going full tilt with workshops, lots of client sessions. It's actually really inspiring and a little bit scary.
Well, and that gives you something really to stretch for. Speaking of stretching, we got the gong sound, so we're going to be heading into a break here very shortly. But when we come back from our break, what I want to do is I want you to tell me, on our sound check earlier today, you were in the corner. And we started talking about childhood issues and things that happened to us. And I want to know personally about your childhood. So we're talking to JP Sears on the OMTimes Radio Network, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Hi, my name is Monica and I'm the host of Co-Creating Now. Give yourself an opportunity to connect with your all-knowing higher self and manifest joy, love and peace together every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
If you've ever said, I do want it all. I do want happiness. I do want love. And I do desire the happily ever after fairy tale life, then this show is for you. Join me, Dame Nicole Brandon, for my internationally acclaimed show, Bridal Talk Radio, every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, where I'll bring you the top experts in the fields of communication, money, relationships, finance, pleasure, play, travel, sexuality, parenting, real estate, adventure, comfort, care, passion, and love.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
This is Radio Namaste. You're listening to the Blue Collar Goddess, Sarah Nash, and I am speaking with the most spiritual man on the planet, JP Sears. Don't forget, you can get his T-shirts that say that he is spiritual as hell. You can get one too. Zen Master Ted's going to shout that out on our Twitter. And JP, before the break, I said, I want to know all about your childhood, son. Tell us how you became the really awesome human being that you are, because truly in my heart, I believe that about you. I just watched you and I wanted to make you my best friend. But tell us how it was growing up.
Yeah, I will. And for a second, my ADD mind, it's stuck on T-shirts. You know, you mentioned that they tell people that I'm spiritual as hell, but really it's a selfless T-shirt. I think it was Jesus who taught the spiritual is hell inside of me is truly the spiritual is hell inside of you. So I think it's a selfless T-shirt. And I think it's worth noting that all the profits of them will be donated to me, where I'll use them to buy things that I would like to have. With that said, childhood, yes, I had one of those, didn't I? You know,
are you saying that you honor the inner hell in me as I honor the inner hell in you, sir?
Absolutely. I think those T-shirts, they're medicinal. They teach us all that we too can have the good life being spiritual as hell. It's not something that I have exclusively. What I have exclusively is I'm ultra spiritual, which nobody else can touch.
Well, I'm the world's greatest and best light worker. So, I mean, I think that it's perfectly okay for you to be the most spiritual person on the planet, because I am the best light worker on the planet. And Steve Pavlina and I are just going to have to go toe to toe. It's going to happen. I'm going to take the Olympic gold in the spiritual light working Olympics. So, you know, I will send you a ticket. I'll probably have box seats or something for that event. So if you and I remain friends, you know, the benefits to you would be outstanding. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I appreciate all that humbleness. That's wonderful. Yeah,
well, I learned from the best. Again, my mentor, Kathy Lynn Douglas, is all about humility, and she taught me that. Those are one of the first things that she taught me. But anyways, back to you, sir. Let's talk about your childhood. I want to know.
Yeah, childhood. That is probably one of my favorite topics. It's a realm that I do a lot of work with in my client work, probably because it's a realm in my life that I need a lot of work in. And there's a curious part of me that wonders, when does childhood actually end? Just because we're no longer, or I'll own this, just because I'm no longer in a small body, does it actually mean my childhood has ended? Or does it just mean that I have a rather convincing illusion that my childhood ended? So, yeah, you know, to be honest with you, I find that the more I sort of give myself permission to let my childhood keep living, the better and more meaningful and unrestricted my life tends to be. I personally kind of look at people just the same way we look at trees. You know how like a tree, you cut it down, and God knows we need to cut down more trees. So everybody go out and cut down a tree.
Oh, stop. You know, here, we just need to really encourage people to do something about those billionaires who are buying bits and pieces of the rainforest. That has to stop. I mean, we need those trees to be cut down immediately. So I think perhaps if we could, perhaps you should create a T-shirt, you know, let's cut down more rainforest, something. Stop the billionaires who are trying to save the rainforest. It's ridiculous. Anyways.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
if we cut down the rainforest first, then that prevents anybody else from cutting it down. So
I'm really busy.
Problem solved.
And it's just I don't have the time to go out and cut down trees. So, you know, maybe other people could do that. Maybe somebody else could be the best tree cutter in the world. Paul Bunyan it. Give him Paul Bunyan award. Go for it. Yeah.
Well, and with that said, as everybody cuts down their own tree, you know how like when you look at a tree after it's been cut down, and you can count how many rings it has inside, and that tells you about how many years old the tree is, and I was recently in the redwood forest in California, and there was an example of it, and you say, okay, there's a lot of rings there. That's 1,300 years old. That tree is amazing. But I find what the wisdom of the tree teaches us is its childhood is still inside of it. It is as much a part of that tree's life as it was 1,300 years ago during the literal period of its childhood. The tree simply adds to it. It adds new layers on top of it, but the childhood never leaves. And I think people are the same. I think we're just harder to figure out because we don't have the simplicity of just cutting ourselves open and counting our rings. Oh, yeah, my childhood's still there. So, acknowledging I'm weird enough to think my childhood is still going. So what was the early part of my childhood like? Do you like how it only took me 30 minutes to start answering this question, Sarah?
I love it.
It's a good day
I
for
could
me.
sit at your feet for hours, sir. Because no, truly that was awesome. Thanks. Now get back to the point. How was your childhood? Thanks for the whole thing about spiritual trees and yada, 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 whatever. You friggin' hippie. How was your childhood?
Yeah, how controlling of me. I have to talk around your question for 30 minutes to shape the question into such a way that I feel in control answering. Very controlling. I feel powerful.
I think it's very manipulative. I think it's very manipulative. I think we could have a discussion about semantics.
Yeah, graceful is another word for it too. But my child... Sarah, this is going awful. I think we're ruining both our careers.
I think I
didn't sign up for this.
All right, screw your childhood. Who are your heroes?
I
don't even want to know about your childhood anymore.
Are we
well
live
done.
yet? Childhood. The gist of my childhood was I spent a lot of time walking deeper and deeper into the proverbial closet or hiding under the bed. And for great reason.
Wait,
my child.
Are you gay?
Well, who knows? Not that I'm aware of, but maybe
you
yet
just
to
talked
realize
about
that.
walking into the proverbial closet. I mean, if you're going to use cliches, this is the big reveal. Everybody, JP Sears, are you gay?
Well,
ask your girlfriend. Hurry.
I will ask her that. Let me wait until she's done with her call, and we'll get back to you on that. So let me change my analogy because it didn't fit.
Yeah, because it really kind of sucked.
I love it when we take analogies literally, which I do. My childhood was spent really kind of disconnecting and hiding from, I think, my ambition, my brilliance, and my playfulness and my emotions. That was big. And there's various things in my childhood that caused me to react that way, to disconnect and crawl deeper into a hole. My family by no means was perfect, and I know there's perfection in that imperfection, but there were times where my parents were separating. We're definitely going to get back to get divorced, then they get back together, then they separate, and so a lot of instability there. And so honestly, I spent a lot of my childhood playing the role of a parent to my parents. Now, at the time, I didn't know I was doing it. But when I look back at it, I absolutely see I was actually trying to play the role of the parent, because my parents, for me, as a child, felt so unstable. Mom's upset about the marriage falling apart, and dad's emotionally closed off. So that doesn't feel stable to me. And because they don't feel stable to me, they're unstable, so I've got to become the stable one. Because if I were to allow myself to just be a natural, vulnerable, emotional kid, well, that would mean I'm unstable, and there's not enough stability to make me feel safe to go into the unsafe territory of being stable or being unstable. So I created essentially the artificially flavored version of stability by disconnecting from that which inside of me felt very unstable. And and it took me until my early 20s before I began to wake up to how much of myself I was disconnected from. I mean, very emotionally disconnected, so emotionally disconnected that I thought, I am pretty much just a whole put together human being, because I never get angry. I never get upset. I never cry. I mean, it's been years since I've cried. I'm never sad. But then I realized, actually, the first class I took with John McMullen after I was in tears that afternoon, realized that's all just a story. The story under that story is I had incredible pain. I had carried around, buried, suppressed, didn't know it was there, but it was incredibly there. Buried it for years, carried it around, and I just began getting reconnected to it in my early 20s.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
Imagine receiving healing, vibration-raising energy as you listen to the radio. Energy that flows effortlessly to you. Imagine exploring all things metaphysical, sharing in an ongoing adventure. Join me, Karen Smoot, along with my co-hosts Lisa Victorson and Wendy Weber for Immersion into Source every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on OM Radio.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Radio Namaste on the OMTimes Radio Network. I was just listening to some of the ads that were playing beforehand, and I was like, no, He doesn't get to say namaste. I own namaste. Dr. Kevin, you and I will have to have a talk. And yes, but we are the best, and I am speaking with the best. I'm a huge fan of JP Sears. When I watch his videos, I am inspired. I laugh. I actually cry, and I learn a little bit. And I'm incredibly grateful for his time and effort, and for joining me here on the OMTimes Radio Network. JP, we were talking about your childhood, and I had that blissful moment in the center of my heart, and I was like, oh my God, this guy really does know what he's talking about. I have to start taking him seriously.
I apologize for that.
Well, you should. You really should, because it's like, yeah, now I have to change my paradigm. I kind of knew that you were spiritual, but I was like, maybe it's just like faking it because, like God, send us your money and your gold. But Vito Mucci in Coffee for Consciousness was talking about how we have these moments in our childhood, and technically, all right, if we want to get technical about it, legally we are children until the age of 18. So, I mean, but certain religions and especially the Mormon church, they figure at the age of 8, you've reached some element of consciousness and you can make a decision as to whether or not you wish to be baptized. By the age of 16, you've learned whether or not you are ready to have a companion and you can begin dating. At 18, you go on missions and so forth and so on. So we do have these sort of like an outline supposedly for childhood, but my son said something to me really interesting many, many years ago when he was a child. He said, Mom, I think grown-ups are just big kids with briefcases.
That is some of the purest wisdom I can remember hearing. That is wonderful.
Yeah, and I thought about that. Jesse, if you're listening in, I love you, and you should call your mother. Anyways, we have these moments in our childhood where we do have to parent our parents. I can remember, no 9-year-old should have to help her mother out of a bar, ever. That was me. And I can think back in times when my children would step in their dysfunctional childhood. By the way, that's all your fault, kids. It has nothing to do with me. You chose to be with me, so... just accept the responsibility for choosing me to be as your mother, and thank you for being there and helping me, because it is all about me. But JP, it sounds like do you have brothers and sisters, by the way? Are you an only child, or?
I have one sister. She's about 1.5 years older than I am.
Oh yeah, where was she for you? Did you have to parent her too?
It was a good question. I think it depends on who you ask. Honestly, I think her and I took times oscillating between surrogate parent, surrogate child. Once in a while in the neutral zones, actually be each other's siblings. But yeah, honestly, I think we parented each other, and also I think, who's the parent, that's always in the eye of the beholder. So there were probably times where through her eyes, I was playing the role of the father, and through my eyes during that same time, she was playing the role of the mother, which kind of makes sense because...
Did you ever beat each other up?
Not really. I mean, there were the occasional, hits and things like that, but no real beating each other up. I always told her that I wanted to wait until I was an adult, a grown man, much stronger than her before we ever got in a real fist fight. So this coming Christmas, when I'm back visiting, her and I will do that part.
Awesome. I think it should be a pay-per-view event. Videotape that. Like, put on big, giant sumo wrestler things and go for it. That would be awesome. Yeah, well, who are your heroes? We know about your mentor and your teacher, but when I look at the people that I look up to in the world that we inhabit, which is the most spiritual world ever, the other, like politics, whatever, yeah. Anyways, finance, anyways, who are your heroes? Who do you look up to?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and I'm going to sound a little bit ultra spiritual here, where I do believe if we look closely and deeply enough at anybody, we'll find a hero inside of them, because I think we project our own hero archetype from within onto someone else, and we just need enough exposure time of them becoming a clear mirror to reflect our inner hero back to us, so they appear to be our hero. So with that said, actually a more grounded answer, well, certainly the mentor John McMullen. Another mentor I've had, a guy named Paul Check. I mean, I can't say enough about what he's done for me and what kind of a hero he had been for me. And also, I'd like to say, Mom and Dad, if you're listening, it's taken me several decades to reach a level of maturity where I can look at my mother and look at my father and say, yes, they're heroes to me too, as much as anybody else. And they're heroes to me not because I'm idealizing them. I'd like to think I have more respect for my parents than to idealize them. But they're my heroes for more meaningful reasons. One, they gave me life. They have each been my primary teachers. They haven't been perfect, and of course, if they were perfect, probably means they would have been horrible teachers for me. I never would have had the friction necessary for growth. So I look at my life today, and I do believe I have a lot of blessings. And if I follow the breadcrumb trail of each of my blessings back to its source, honestly, my parents have so much to do with all of my blessings, whether it's how they showed up for me or how they were absent at certain times. So actually, I love your question. I don't think I've ever put it into words that my parents are absolutely a couple of my heroes.
Well, that's because I'm really, really good at what I do, and I am the best light worker. So if I can help you find your inner light, hey, my work here is done. Okay, we can go now.
And by the way, I'm looking. I just received the PayPal deposit from your account. So yes, Sarah, you're my biggest hero. Stamp that endorsement.
Yeah, that's not refundable either, by the way. So. I'm so ADD and I have so many things going through my head, and I'm truly, one of my biggest issues is really listening to my guests, because some of the most incredible things are said with regard to the questions that I ask. Being psychic and being intuitive and that part of who you are, I want to talk about that in just a minute. But when you work with your clients, okay, because I have to tell you, a lot of my clients have serious mommy and daddy issues, sure, just like I did as well. Although my dad was like the greatest guy on the planet. Like I have nothing really terrible to say about the divine masculine, but my issues came with the divine feminine, and thankfully my physician and my psychologist helped me work through my mommy issues. My perspective changed when I changed my ideas about my mother. And I know that a part of that has a lot to do with really knowing that I wouldn't be the awesome person that I am today if it wasn't for my awesome mom, which was like one of the weirdest things to say. So do you notice as you age and mature and become a bigger child and a better child, do you notice that you become more understanding and tolerant of what our parents went through? And is this something that you see happening in your clients?
Yeah, short answer to all that from my point of view is yes. And
I knew you were going to say that.
And I knew that you knew I was going to say that. I think that I'm a little more psychic than you, Sarah. But with that said,
we're going to have to like have I'm seeing here in the future some sort of spirit off at some point in the future, because I'm infinitely more psychic than you. And I actually have the gift of clairvoyance and prophecy. I can see that I'm an already win, so you should probably just not even bother. But anyways, go ahead.
I like that intimidation. Reminds me of my childhood. Anyway, with clients, absolutely. I believe there's two types of people in this world. Those who have wounds from their childhood associated with their parents, and then those who are in denial that they have wounds from their childhood associated with their parents. And I do believe that it is our perception of our parents that what they did or what they didn't do that causes our wounding. I don't think we need to demote anybody into a place of victimization and take their power away and say, oh, poor you because of what your parents did for you. I think that's incredibly disempowering. I think our pain and challenges always come from our own hand, which is driven from our perception. And, honestly, I don't think we can escape it because I think it's necessary. In fact, earlier today, I was having a session with a lady. Actually, it was a couple session, her and her lovely man partner. And we were looking at the challenges that she's experiencing present day because of how wonderful of a father she had. And I truly believe like her father was a loving man, was very accepting of her, made her feel very wanted. And we'd say, great, you had a wonderful childhood. Yeah. And there's the wounding and the challenge that comes from that, because now as she's a grown woman, she has to experience the grief, the pain, and the anger of the absence of what her father so abundantly provided to her. So it's, in a way, it's kind of like, boy, if you have an awful father, that's going to cause pain and challenges down the road. Boy, if you have a perfect father, that's going to cause pain and challenges down the road. And we'd say, well, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I'd say, well, maybe, but maybe it's blessed if you do and blessed if you don't. It's kind of like, I look at our pain, our wounding, our traumas. They're necessary for growth. And I know a lot of us like to adopt our spiritual bypass strategies where we just try to get the growth without the pain and the wounding and the breakdown. But it's like, people who go to the gym, you go to the gym and what you're doing there is you're breaking your muscles down. You are literally wounding them because that is necessary for them to grow, for them to get stronger. You got to break them down or they'll never get stronger. And with the proverbial muscle of our own life, I don't think we can get the growth and the strength of self-realization by bypassing the wounding. And I don't think we need to go out and create any more wounding. I think we carry so much of it around in our unconscious that we've got plenty of wounding to sustain the muscle growth of our psyches and souls for the rest of our lives.
Agreed. And when I work with people, occasionally what I want to do is just take some of those wounds and say, these are the ones that you should probably focus on, and these are the ones that you probably shouldn't. But that's because I'm really psychic and I can see inside of them. So when we get back, I can't believe that we're heading into the closing end of this, but we're talking to JP Sears, and you're listening to Radio Nahmaste, OMTimes Radio Network.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
You know, JP, thank you for being with us here on Radio Namaste. And I don't want you to go anywhere yet because I still want to, I have like so many things I want to ask you. And I'm like, oh my God. By the way, everyone, you're listening to the OMTimes Radio Network. This is Radio Namaste. I'm the blue collar goddess, Sarah Nash. Anyways, we're talking to JP. JP Sears. I want to talk about your videos. What is your first video out there? I was actually going to try and do some homework and like nail you on your first video so I could critique it. But they're all so very good that I felt foolish. So I'm going to admit to you with sincere humility that I could find no flaws. And I'm kind of concerned about that because it's a little too perfect, sir.
Yeah, well, you just dig deeper into my YouTube channel. Yeah, my first video that I put on my YouTube channel would have been from, I guess, a little over 2 years ago, and it was I think it was entitled Vulnerability is an Extreme Sport. And I think the message, I still love the message today, and of course I'm biased because I'm the one that spoke the message in the video. But from a video sense and coming across natural and free-flowing and just more as me, I think there's a lot to critique in that video. Yet I did make a commitment to myself that, you know, as I became a little bit more proficient at making videos of a higher entertaining quality and allowing myself to be just more natural, I didn't want to take down those early videos. It felt like I would have been spitting in the face of my past self because that was, that's the heart and soul of JP of 2 years ago. And it's kind of like, you know, if you have a child who's 5 years old, brings home a piece of crap looking piece of art from art class, but it's brilliant for that 5-year-old. And, you know, when they're 7 years old, you don't just rip it up and say, hey, this is garbage. No, that was perfection.
Oh, wait a minute. Is that, oh, shoot. See?
Yeah, you did wound your children.
Oh, man. Oh, okay. All right. So I can expect a lot of feedback from that. Thanks, JP.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I was totally inspired to do a video. I wanted to challenge you to a spirit off, and I thought, you know, what the heck? I'm just going to put a video out there about how I'm the most spiritual woman on the planet, and da-da-da-da-da. And it evolved into this thing that I'm really kind of excited about doing because the feedback that I received from it was really tremendous. I really learned who hated me, and you know who you are. So get out of my life and get off my planet. And thanks for being honest. And no, Millicent, I'm not talking to you. Talk about feedback. What kind of feedback are you getting from the world and from the public in general?
Yeah, on the whole, the feedback is very praising, and you can really quantify that feedback based on watching my subscribership grow, watching the view counts grow on the videos. So for me, that's very praising, humbling feedback. It's encouragement from the world to say, yeah, wonderful. And I guess that's a little codependent of me to somewhat rely on that. And, you know, there's also the old notion that says the surest path to failure is to try and please everyone. So certainly is all the feedback praising? Absolutely not. And I'll before I get into hate comments on YouTube videos, I will say before before my YouTube channel really kind of took off and, you know, started really growing. So for like the first year of my YouTube channel, I don't think I got one negative comment. And I was thinking, man, I must be doing really well. I haven't got one negative comment. But during that first year, I was really restricting myself. And I think in a way I was, if you want to judge it this way, I was kind of failing because I wasn't allowing myself to be just unapologetically myself. I was playing it safe. People pleaser JP was taking over, which compromised the brightness, the brilliance of the videos, if you will, but it kept people from, you know, criticizing me. So now, as I allow myself to be much more of, my authentic self on my channel, there's certainly the negative comments that come in, hate comments, people saying, just things we probably don't want to repeat on the radio.
Oh, it's my show. Go ahead, man. It's all about the high vibration, F-U-C-K. Yeah, man. It's actually P-H-U-C-K. It's a high vibration.
Yeah,
so
it's
like
a trendy way of saying it.
Very, very trendy. In fact, I started it so everyone can, don't go over to JP with the high vibration, you know what? Come over here with the high vibration, you know what? The bottom line, JP, is that you are incredibly authentic, and the humor and the love and the light shines through. And I'm so inspired to really jump into this authentic me. I finally had a session with Sylvia Henderson. She's actually one of the other hosts on OMTimes Radio. And it was like I'd done all this work. I'd worked out. I got this hard body. And then she came along and she was like, hey, you need a makeover. And it really allowed me to step into my power so that when I started getting, right away, by the way, so that must mean I'm more famous and better than you, JP.
Let me just update the scorecard here.
I cannot do this anymore.
Sarah thinks she has another point. I just wrote that down.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you feel as though you have to keep a scorecard. That next time, JP, you just have to know, because if you actually have to keep score, maybe you should schedule a session with yourself, sir. But no, I decided to jump in and be authentically me, and that's where I wanted to point out when I did my video. And Zen Master Ted was helping me with it. He said, sweetie, this really has nothing to do with you trying to talk to JP. You're trying to talk to the world. Go for it. And you did that, JP. You did that. And I think, as I said at the beginning of our sound check earlier today, we are that new wave of consciousness that's coming through. And that word consciousness, ascension symptoms, blah, blah, blah. No, we are the ones. We're the new guardians of the galaxy. And as we step into our power and we assist those who are coming behind us, I think we're going to need this really kind of twisted sense of humor to get us from point A to point B. Would you not agree with that? Never mind. I already know what you're going to say. Okay, everyone, we've been talking to JP.
I'm going to be on mute for the rest of this.
Well, that's okay, because we only have a few minutes left anyways. Is there anything else you want to say, sir? I got to move on.
Talk
about my sponsor.
Yeah, well, screw them. I want to talk about me. I would absolutely agree that we, and I think who is we, probably everybody listening to this, we are sort of we're not the new age, we're the newer age, we're the new guardians of the galaxy. And I think for us to play the role of bringing in more voluminous light into our world and the world at large, we don't need to ask, well, who should I be and what should I do in order to make that happen? I think all we need to do is to do our best to be nothing other than our own damn self, our own brilliant self. I think that's really all we need to do. I don't think we need to try and play the role of whatever the spiritual teachers are supposed to look like. That was the way they were supposed to look like. And I think we serve ourselves, and we really serve the world really well when we just allow ourselves to be ourselves. And I think that's one of the reasons why weirdos like you and I, Sarah, can use humor, and it can have such a positive effect, because it's a relatively new thing to the spiritual world. And I think we really honor it by allowing it to flow through us, if that's what wants to flow through us.
Agreed. And it took us a while to figure out who that was, though. So, JP, can people still, obviously you're still doing sessions. People can still schedule sessions with you by going to awakenwithjp.com?
That would be true.
Okay. Yeah. And do you have a calendar on your website you do workshops and lectures from time to time?
Yep, that would be true. Right now, the calendar looks relatively blank because for the near future, I've had to take some time off to fertilize and nurture some other new projects that are on my plate. But yeah, you can check out my website, and also I think the most entertaining and probably the most beneficial way to stay connected with me is subscribing to my YouTube channel, Awaken With JP. It's a hell of a lot more entertaining and informative than my website is.
Yeah, it's really annoying how timely you are with your newsletters too. Like, it's just your organizational skills are really annoying, and I have to maintain some sort of sense of equanimity with keeping up with that. So
yeah, it's the element of surprise is
what I think I'm going to do is every time you send out a newsletter, I am too. So
this random chaos of, a newsletter comes out once every 9.5 days sometimes. Hey, JP, thank you so much for joining us here. I'm delighted to know you. I hope to see more of you out there, and not just on your YouTube channel. When we take over the galaxy and we have these councils, I'll save you a seat, okay? Just know that I got your back. I will save you a seat. I appreciate that, and I'm grateful to be walking the earth with you, Sarah, and thank you for having me on, and thank you for being you, letting yourself be as weird and delightful as you actually are. That's something I really look up to, and thank you to all you lovely listeners for inviting me into your life for a little while.
You heard it here, everybody. JP thinks I'm just as weird as he is, so ha! All right, we're going to talk to the artist of Ragdoll Comics next week. Don't forget to buy yourselves a rock at alchemystones.com. That's our beautiful sponsor. We're going to be handing out some karma violations from the Good Karma Factory. And check out JP. Go watch some videos. Get out of here. Get off the radio. Talk to you later, everyone. Bye.